stay-at-home dad, watching Disney movies he never had. His daughter digs through all the VHS, crushing the classics in a princess dress. Informed like Scuttle, Kurt's got your ticket, making it real like Jiminy Cricket. Most are off the Captain Hook, but if the Tweedledum, he'll be taking more shots than Bambi's mom. Leaves him raised like Simba, or cracked like the beach dishes. He'll show you a whole new world, you won't need 3 wishes. Stay-at-home Disney dad.
Under the weather. This cold is kicking my ass, but let's get this done. We get an ad for 101 Dalmatians, the animated sequel, not to be confused with this movie, which is 102 Dalmatians. Stay tuned after the show for the first soundtrack to this movie. There's a lot of information off the top, and when there's numbers in the movie's name, it starts to feel like math, and I don't like it. 2002 is the year, and we start with a dog rap. It's that Bow Wow rap from like all the trailers. This trailer's on every single VHS around this time. It's raining Dalmatians, and that's actually how this movie starts. Swirling black dots with the actors' names on them against a white background. That's kind of cool. I can't wait to see, though, what wild antics Roger and Anita have for us this time. Roger, are you using my hand towel? Why, Anita, I am. I must be daft. Oh, Roger, let's call my mother and relay this moment of hilarity. We start in the mental ward, okay. Oh, it's like an animal mental ward, okay. They've been giving animals electroshock therapy and hypnotherapy. It's like a pet prison. Dr. Pavlov, a little on the nose, folks, but Dr. Pavlov opens the door because she's cured. And it's Cruella, laughing and smiling, covered in Dalmatians, all kissing and licking her. She's cured. She loves them. Next scene, she's in court, and she's released into the custody of the probation officer, but if she messes up, her entire net worth will be given to the owners of the animals she tried to steal. So in other words, her fortune will go to the dogs. That's a good line. That's funny stuff. Good stuff, pal. We see Cruella on the outside, and she's nice, and she loves dogs. Guess she is cured, and we can just turn the movie off. Her butler, Alonzo, gives her a little black and white dog, and she loves it. In Anita's office, she's interviewing some degenerate, and I have no idea what's going on. Hold up, this isn't Anita, this is Chloe, and Chloe's a social worker, and she owns one of the original 101 Dalmatians. She bought it from Roger and Anita's animal farm. She's a social worker, and some thug is trying to like pull a fast one on her, but she's too smart. Chloe says, I need pay stubs for any reimbursements. Then her secretary interrupts whatever this is, and she's on the phone. They found someone, music swells, and she runs out. Some guy's having a tug of war in the next scene with the dog. The degenerate from Chloe's office gets home, and he lives with the other tug-of-war guy. That's his roommate. So there are 2 new bumbler dog nappers, question mark, or are these down on their luck good guys with redeeming qualities that'll come out later? They have a bunch of dogs and a parrot who is voiced by someone who has never heard a parrot before in their lives. Okay, maybe these are good guys. The tug-of-war guy's name is Kevin, and he's like, hey, mate, where did you get all this food? You didn't nab it, did ya? And the other guy from Chloe's office is like, nah, I said I'm done with all that. The parrot thinks he's a dog. And they are down on their luck dudes. They run an animal shelter. And then the guy from Tintin comes to serve them an eviction notice for their shelter because they're behind on rent. Oh no, Dottie the dog Chloe bought from Anita had puppies. One is an idiot and tried nursing from a toy egg. Chloe calls him Odd, so they name him Oddball, rightio. In the Cruella mansion, everything is covered in dog hair and dog stuff, and she's losing her mind. She has her butler seal everything up that reminds her of her old self, like puts it in a room and he boards it up. The Dalmatian dad is named Dipstick, the mom is Dottie, and they had one albino pup, the odd one. They named it Oddball because he looks different, so let's make that 100% of his character so he never forgets. Chloe and Cruella have their chilly reunion, although I don't think we ever saw them actually meet before, but it's implied. Chloe is Cruella's parole officer. Cruella sees the picture of those 2 dudes in their second chance rescue dog company that were left on Chloe's desk, and she gets an idea. Back at the second chance, they're out of second chances. The duo are protesting against getting kicked out. The news shows up just as Cruella shows up and straight up buys the shelter. Chloe sees this on the news and chokes on her dessert. Chloe Simon is her full name, and she shows up to the shelter and chats with Kevin Jefford, and he calls himself a dog lover. She's like, why'd you get arrested once then? She grills Kevin Jefford about Cruella and claims, people don't change. He says, Cruella has, and that's the spirit of the dog shelter, second chance. Yeah, you kind of look like a bit of a chili right now, don't you, Chloe? Again, the parrot thinks he's a dog. They're hitting us over the head with that, so I feel like that's going to be important later on. Kevin says Cruella has changed, and he shows Chloe another room where Cruella is part of this giant dog washing team, and Chloe can't believe it. Cruella has changed. We have a Cruella montage of her integrating back into society. She's at dog shows and having photo shoots with dogs, and her love for animals graces the cover of many magazines. Back at the animal nut house, Pavlov realizes that Big Ben's chimes undo all the years of shock and hypnotherapy and makes the animals crazy again. So if Cruella hears Big Ben ringing, she's going to go back to her evil self. Chloe's office is covered with dogs, and Cruella changes her appointment time. She's coming right now, and she wants to be called Ella from now on. Chloe isn't having any of it. The old lady receptionist is playing a 2-player boxing video game against one of the dogs and losing. Like, the dog understands the control sequences better than this lady does. Oddball, the dog that doesn't have spots, sees a printer leaking ink, so it rolls in the ink to try to give itself spots, but as it does, it falls out the window like an idiot. But with the window now open, Big Ben chimes, and Cruella starts seeing spots. Her mind cracks as she withers and shakes, and the transformation from Ella back into Cruella has begun. Cruella slow walks around the city as her awakening begins, and she sees spots on everything. People, cars, everything is black or white with black spots, and there's operatic stabs, and this is like a horror movie scene. She screams, "Ella is gone and Cruella is back." She demands that the butler tear down the boards, and she goes back into her room with all her evil dog stuff. She rolls on the fur and cackles. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of these Dalmatian movies, but if you are Glenn Close, this is a super fun role. We have a legit scary scene as she profiles her face in front of a fire and cackles and sneers. We transform from that into a fashion show, but it's like a Zoolander making fun of a fashion show. It ends with this beefy dude in a fur coat as protesters rush the stage. They call him a murderer and throw red paint on him because he's wearing fur. So he goes backstage covered in paint. He's having a tantrum, but then Cruella walks in. She's come to talk to him. They have a private meeting. He says, "Sorry for the demonstrators," and she says, "Demonstrators? I thought they were critics." Oof. His name is Jean-Pierre Lepelt, and I'll give this franchise props for always cleverly making fun of French people. Her plan is to pitch this guy a Dalmatian coat. He says, "A coat? From puppies?" Pierre is down. Elsewhere, Chloe and Kevin are watching Punch and Judy. I'm so confused. This has to be an updated, less domestic, abusive version of the iconic puppet show from like the 40s. Uh-oh. One of the puppets has a black and white spotted cape, so the dog without spots, Oddball, goes nuts and attacks it. Somehow they end up outside, and Oddball is caught in a bunch of balloons sailing up into the sky like his wife died. Did you like that one? Kevin heroically makes the save, and that gets the blonde's motor running. She's dropping mad romantic hits at Kevin, who doesn't get it. So the bird, who thinks he's a dog, does what a dog would do in this situation and asks Chloe out to dinner on Kevin's behalf. She breathfully agrees. Back at home, Chloe's trying to get ready and snaps at her dog, Dottie. She's like, "I have nothing to wear, Dottie." And Dottie brings out a dress, and she says, "Are you sure? This one is completely see-through." All right. Jean-Pierre Lepelt and Cruella need 99 Dalmatians to sew together a coat. You might say he's got 99 problems, but a stitch. Oh my God, one worked. He's got 99 problems, but a stitch ain't one because they're making a coat. Self high five. Kevin comes with his dogs and his parrot that thinks it's a dog. She walks out in an outfit that was supposed to be see-through. Spoiler, it is not. All the blood leaves Kevin's head anyways. He has a gift. Kevin knitted a spotted sweater for Oddball. You know, the dog that doesn't have spots. Another dog puts a VHS tape in the VCR, and we get the Disney movie logo opening. We hear "When You Wish Upon a Star," that blue scrolling logo thing. At their date, Kevin is telling the story of the rescue shelter and how it almost went out of business until Cruella finally saved it, and Cruella goes off if she goes off the rails, he inherits her fortune. So yeah, she's changed. Chloe, though, will have none of it. She gets irate every time he mentions Cruella. Gal has some serious trust issues. Back at home, the dogs are watching Lady and the Tramp on VHS. That's fun. The spaghetti scene is intercut with the real couple being served spaghetti. This movie suddenly has a lot of unexpected charm. Well done. We get a dissolve from the animated alley from Lady and the Tramp to a real alley, and the bumblers, like not Kevin and his friend, but the bad guys, are breaking into steal Dalmatians to make it to a coat. This story line feels like, you know, Bowser kidnapping the princess. It's been done over and over and over. Back on the date, the couple both agree they had a good time, and the parrot is like, "Rah, kiss already!" And Kevin goes, "I know you don't believe in second chances, but do you believe in second dates?" Great line, for real. Chloe's clothes practically fall off right there, but basically he's telling her he really likes her, but she's still kind of a person. So good. This movie has turned a corner. I'm into this now. She's telling her dog later how Kevin reminds her of him, the dog. Here we go. No one's pet reminds them of their lover, or they shouldn't. The shelter gets a hot tip about a box of abandoned puppies just around the corner, so they leave to go get the puppies, and while no one's there, the bumbler with a big bag full of puppies sneaks into the shelter, and uh-oh, now the cops show up with a warrant to search the shelter. 60 Dalmatian puppies were reported stolen last night, and hey, there they are, in a bag, the bumbler planted in the shelter. Uh-oh, it's off to prison for Kevin, where he'll be fed a different kind of spaghetti. Cruella and Mrs. Simon show up. She's on a bike. Cruella laughs at Chloe's lame helmet and says, "I'd rather have my skull crushed than wear that." Good stuff. The cop is like, "Do you have an alibi for Kevin last night?" And Chloe's like, "Yeah, he was in me. I mean, he was with me. He's been framed and he's going to jail now." She's sad. He's going to jail. But she's also kind of happy that she was right about Cruella, you know? Chloe knows Cruella is behind all this. Cruella is like, "But if I steal dogs, all my wealth goes to Kevin, so why would I steal dogs? You're wrong. The police take Kevin away," and Glenn Close cackles in the rain. Cruella invites Chloe to her fancy Cruella party that night. Cruella left the final job for Pierre to steal the last 3 special Dalmatians from Chloe's, what would it be called, flat? Chloe shows up to the party and Cruella asks if her puppies are safe at home. She goes, "Yeah," like an idiot. Shot of Kevin in jail, just dropped in there for no reason. Everyone sits at a long dining room table and Cruella has even set places for the dogs. They all have places at the table. The dogs start eating off the plates, and in no time at all, it's chaos as they're all crawling across the table making a mess, and her dog, Dipsy or Dottie or whatever, takes off and she follows it down the winding hallways and corridors. They find this thick wooden door, and behind it, Cruella's secret lair with all her evil fashion plans and Dalmatian outfits. Back at Chloe's empty home, the bumbler fashion guy breaks in to steal the last 3 dogs and ends up with his head in the toilet. He goes to kidnap the dogs and has no idea what to do, and they start to growl at him. He wasn't prepared for any of this. He eventually gets them in this giant bag, but leaves you can't get the loser dog without spots, but it's in that sweater, and the sweater gets snagged on some furniture, and it keeps running in circles, like tying up Pierre. In some serious Gulliver Travel tomfoolery. The dog barks out the balcony and calls to action all the other dogs in the city. Dogs all over the city bark and sound alarms as Cruella surprises the blonde in her lair and is like, "Surprise! Ha ha ha! You were right, I am actually evil and I'm locking you in this room to starve to death, I guess." Slam, lock. The fashion guy Pierre gets up and grabs the sweater dog anyway and begins his drive back to the mansion. Kevin is still in jail, but he hears the city's dogs barking. The bird with him deciphers what all the barking is about. "Rock, Batman, nab 3 spotted doggies." He's cracked the case. He understands talking dogs and there's an emergency, so the warden just has to let him out now, right? Chloe breaks down the wooden door while she's wearing heels, which is pretty badass. I think she used like a coat rack as a lance to bust it open. That's good stuff. The parrot gets out of the jail cell and gets the keys back to the cell. And Kevin unlocks the cell and he just walks out the front of jail and catches a cab. The cabbie doesn't even blink. Some guy walks outside of the jail and frantically hails a cab. "Hey, where to, bub?" Chloe is home and her dogs are gone. Kevin arrives and he's no help. Cruella is just pacing around what looks like Gotham City. As Jean-Pierre arrives with the dogs, Kevin is like, "Oops. Well, guess I was wrong about Cruella after all." It turns out Kevin's dog napping conviction that led to his first arrest back in the day was for when he broke into a lab and freed the dogs that were being experimented on. That's why he was on probation. You know, buddy, that's probably some info you lead with when you're trying to smash your parole officer animal activist who thinks you're a dog napper. Chloe figures out Cruella is going to Paris, and it's a race to the Orient Express, like the train. The idiot actually thought the sweater dog had spots on it. It doesn't. So the dog runs away, and Cruella calls him an idiot and tells her butler, Alonzo, to go kill the dog. Because last time she underestimated a puppy, she ended up in the pokey. That's a fun line. The bumbler butler gets his hands run over by a truck, and that was uncomfortable to watch. Everyone is trying to get to the Orient Express. The bad guys get there first, and they start leaving as Kevin and Chloe arrive 20 seconds too late. They're chasing the train. Oddball falls onto the tracks like a spotless moron. The bird that thinks it's a dog suddenly remembers it's a bird and flies and picks up the unspotted dog that fell on the tracks. They miss that train, so they board the next one to Paris. How long is this movie? They arrive at Paris. The bad guys are transporting the puppies, and they drive the wrong way down a one-way street, and everyone crashes around them. And that scene looked really expensive and was really unnecessary. Kevin and Chloe arrive, and all the Paris dogs chase the Cruella mobile. Follow le chien! The bird and the spotless dog are outside the hideout. Inside, they're all sewing coats, so the puppies have been skinned already. It's a sweatshop. It's kind of funny. And Cruella is impressed by how little they get paid. Oh, there's some jump cuts there. Cruella is at what looks like the hideout where Mr. Snopes and Medusa took Penny. It's inside a sweatshop. Everyone is sewing clothes. I wonder if this is the one Madeline was sent to. Cruella is impressed by how little Jean-Pierre is paying these immigrant workers. That didn't age well. The parrot and Spotless dog start chewing their way into the sweatshop. Cruella's butler is starting to have a crisis of character as he loads the Dalmatians into a cellar. Kevin and Chloe watch from behind a tree. Then they sneak down into the cellar where Cruella finds them, and maybe she'll expand her business and make some coats or lamp covers from human flesh now. No, the bird and the Spotless dog have broken into the cellar so the dogs and humans can escape the cellar. Cruella and Jean Zoolander are hanging out, and Jean holds up a scalping instrument and says, "This is my favorite part," and Cruella asks, "The skinning? Not the strangling?" And it's funny I mentioned the rescuers before, because originally they wanted to use Cruella as the antagonist in that movie, but they were shot down because Cruella apparently wouldn't have been as evil as the female antagonist that was in the rescuer script, so they created Madame Medusa or whatever. Now look at Cruella, strangling and skinning and starving. Okay. The butler Alonzo tries to distract Cruella from seeing the dogs and the humans escaping, but fails, so Zoolander starts beating him up in the sweatshop. The workers jump in and sew Zoolander up in fur, which was the inspiration for that scene in Midsummer 2 decades later. The puppies are all CGI as they escape. Cruella is obsessed with the one dog without spots and signals them out to kill it. Again, now it looks like they're in a Gotham City chemical plant. Like, this is like the only scene they brought in Tim Burton, and he brought in his sets from Batman 1989. There's a bunch of dog hijinks as they send Cruella across a conveyor belt, and it reminds me of that scene in the Gowan music video for Criminal Mind that scared the crap out of me as a kid. Credit where it's due, conveyor belt damaged Cruella is pretty epic. I would buy that action figure. She does not quit until the dogs outsmart her. One last time, she drops into the center of whatever this machine is. The machine beeps, and out comes Cruella, who has been baked as a cake. You know what else was baked? The writing team. I mean, props to Glenn Close, for real though. She does not need to be doing this at this stage in her career. She's just getting covered in syrup and sprinkles, and it looks sticky and messy for real, like gross. She's arrested. Jean-Pierre Zoolander is arrested. End scene, fade up from black. Time has passed. The Cruella mobile arrives at the shelter, and the butler arrives, and Alonzo hand delivers the check for £8 million. Kevin and Blonde start making out in front of everyone. It seems awkward, but I think about it and I get it. If someone suddenly handed my wife and I $8 million, we would probably start going at it right then and there as well.
That's what I think about.
What do you think?
What we have is a concern about Curtis Anderson. His interviewing style is not the best. His personal appearance is not the best. I was wondering if the man has some kind of a hold over the channel that he's allowed to be employed for so long with the standards of journalism and personal appearance that he has. Thank you.